Hello everybody, welcome to part 2 of a tour of my benches. Cooper is waiting for me to throw the ball and I've just kicked it very badly into the pond. This was why I was never chosen for any sports team at school. Once they found out what my ball skills were like, it was back of the line for me. Anyway, so let's just try that again. If I can do it without making you feel too seasick, which is no, that's impossible because I've just kicked the tripod. I really must learn not to do this. You get the impression that he wants to play ball, don't you? Anyway, that's it. Look, he's done that and he's gone off board doing something else. So back to where we was. Okay, so inside the shade house, here are some of the trees that I've already worked on, and well, there's some sweet peas and some other bits and bobs. There's the other dawn redwood just there. There's a hawthorn and there's a hornbeam, some ash seedlings, and there's a zelkova in that green pot. There's some cuttings of flowering cherry in that black tray there. There's a very pretty flowering cherry which I have already repotted off camera, and that's sitting nicely in here, showing off its flowers beautifully. It's still got a lot to open. I'm really happy with that though, the way that's developed. And there's other trees that I've repotted and featured recently. In the back there's the octopus. Let's see if we can zoom in on the octopus for you. In the back there, and the hawthorn that I call the twins, and you can't really see it, but in behind that again is the Virginia creeper in that blue pot in the very back. There's the liquid amber. Had to rescue that from the vine weevil, if you recall. Another zelkova and a little cobnut, and in behind that a pile, that's not the right word I'm looking for, a group of field maple seedlings and so on. So yeah, this becomes a kind of a little infirmary for recently repotted trees and things, and this will be filling up over the next few weeks as I crack on with the repotting. So turning back from the shade house there, around the back of the pond, I have a grouping of root over rock fusion projects that I've not really bothered to show on camera, but you can see it is definitely a bit of an obsession of mine. There are lots of them in those little 9cm pots, so yeah. And then we'll get a closer look at that bench in a minute, but if we keep going round, that'll bring us to the beech forest. So we'll move around and get a better angle on that. So as I say, this is part 2, and a couple of trees I missed showing you by the side of this beech forest is well, there's a stone pine just there, a slight shine on the camera screen. I can't see what I'm showing you, but a stone pine that I intend to do something with at some point. I picked that up at garden centre in the, throwing it out because it's not looking very healthy, and it has most of its growth on one side, and I'm toying with the idea of a pine raft. I'm told there can be done but not easily, so that could be an interesting challenge. And then another set of trees that I'm going to be working on soon, a whole bunch of oaks in that pot there, all grown from acorns that I collected while out walking with the dog, and I had toyed with the idea of a very large fusion oak project, but I'm now thinking about maybe doing a forest. So this is turning into an advert for future videos, but yeah, that's pretty much what it is. And okay, so we'll move you around and we'll look at a few other things. When I run out of space on the benches, I tend to put things around the pond here, and I've started now to build some of these little platforms so that they're not having to sit directly onto the soil. I think that'll be better for them in the long run, but it's going to take a while to get them all. So this is the large white wisteria. Pigeons are doing their things behind us, and that's driving the dog nuts. And just a whole bunch of willows, and there's a purple beech. There's another strange little fusion project of willow where I just stuck a whole bunch of things I cut off into a pot and seeing if they will fuse into this kind of strange little wigwam affair going on. So we'll see. Next to that we have the Chinese wisteria. That's had a chop back. I have filmed that, but it's going to be part of a timey-wimey thing. And behind that there's a beech, a copper beech, some more willows in various stages of fusion. Another bench I built over lockdown to replace the bench that was there, which had, well, it did effectively collapse in the middle after 20 something years of service, so I had to build a new one, and yeah, it came out alright. I'm quite pleased with that. And that is looking quite good now, I think. Again, trees you might recognise are the large beech. That's going to be going into a new pot this spring. There's the goat willow fusion project in the back. A couple of cedars. Another ash fusion, strange haunted tree shape thing. That's been in a video recently. And then of course on the top I have a number of the cascades, including the cotoneasters and some laniceras and an apple. Again, they will be featuring in videos of their own this spring and summer. And also we have the no wire birch fusion. Nearly missed on showing you the large literati, Chamaecyparis obtusa teddy bear, set up there on its own little plinth, as it were, and yeah, it's doing quite well. I did have a branch die back, but again, that's a tree we'll be focusing more on over the coming years. Okay, so here we have an old table that's got a whole bunch of starter trees. Essentially, there's stuff I've taken from cuttings. Mostly it's evergreens. So here's another lockdown bench project. This one I filmed. Really quite pleased with this one. Unfortunately, some of you were right, it is sagging a little in the middle. I'm going to have to put a central prop, but only because I want to put more trees on it. If I left it with less trees, it wouldn't sag so much. Just my own fault, really. But let's move in a little closer and look at some of these. Again, some of these have got history in terms of being videos on the channel. This is a little birch 3-clump group, which is actually 3 trees fused into one central clump, and it's going to need repotting this year, so there'll be a video on that. And in behind we have a hornbeam and an elm, and that was taken from a root cutting, and the lower portion from sort of here downwards was all root, so it's hence that sort of squiggly base. Do I like it? I'm not sure. I'm not a big fan of the curly-whirly bonsai tree that so often you see in supermarkets at Christmas. And then they never have them in again until the next Christmas, but I kind of like it. It's not offending my eye. Next to that we have a little Christmas tree, the bonsai tree, and I don't know if it's alive or dead. And a little disappointing, but again, it may survive, it may not, and it could have been last summer that killed it. But let's move in a little closer, you'll see what I mean. It's very brown, but there is still green and there are buds swelling, so it may drop all of these needles and then shoot out some new growth. We will see. I like it otherwise, but again, this was one of those Christmas trees that you buy for a few pounds, covered in glitter, one of those mini ones. Here we have a willow, another little willow. This is another goat willow, I believe, from memory. And next to it, the little flowering cherry landscape I put together with these rocks last spring, and it's just coming into flower now, looking really nice. Obviously still needs to develop a lot of ramification, but of course you can't prune stone fruit over winter. It'll be due to them getting silver leaf. Another hornbeam in behind in the green pot, and then next to it the box, the two dogs humping, as my father-in-law used to call it. Another cherry in the green pot there, and I don't recall what type of cherry that is. No, it's gone completely. Moving along, we have another little Chinese elm growing from a cutting. The larch awaiting a branch grafting, which is going to happen this spring, so look out for that. Another Christmas tree just here, and again, that was one of those little £5 jobbies, and has since, well, I'm quite pleased with that. It's got a look about it. It's not a classical bonsai by any stretch of anybody's imagination, but it has a look I like. So then we have the big hawthorn, which flowered for me last year, and I'm really hoping it's going to flower for me again this year. We shall see. It's again probably 25 years old, and it flowered year 2019 for the first time. I had sort of one flower on it, and then 2020 it gave me a burst of flower, which was nice. Trying to get a better angle on the false cypress here. This is a windswept false cypress. I bought bare root a number of years ago. It's featured in its own video regularly since. Gradually developing a better look as we go along. Did some deadwood work on it at the top there, which is not going to show up very well on this video. And in behind that we have a juniper cascade in progress. So again, that's been in a video before now. There's a slightly better view of the juniper cascade doing its thing, and the saguaro. Let's see if I can't move you in and get a better view of that deadwood. Yeah, so again, quite pleased. It had a bit of a change of direction, and I decided it was getting too tall, so that became a nice bit of deadwood, and I'm really pleased with the way that's turned out. Don't worry, there's only another couple of inches to go. Down on the floor, as I said, there's the ash projects. They're all fusion projects. So we've got grown over rocks and an exposed root project, which I just fancy doing, so just for a bit of fun. And there we have the large beech root over rock, which is awaiting a spring trim, but it's fusing quite nicely and is now beginning to look like it's clinging to the rock. So another couple of seasons, I hope we'll have something from that. Okay, so filming the bench the other side of the pond is a bit of a challenge in that, well, I'd have to stand in the pond to be able to get far enough back to be able to show you individual trees, or I have to stand this side of the pond, which I am doing, and zoom in. So in the centre there we have a saguaro cypress, false cypress. It's a formal upright. Again, that was grown from a bare root tree that I purchased from a nursery many years ago, and that's done well. That's again a playlist in the channel for that. And then we have some juniper, which is not really done much with apart from getting it into a flat pot. There's the Mugo pine, which I nearly killed, another Christmas tree, and the Bhutan pine and the Scots pine that have recently been in videos are over there as well. So we'll be seeing more of those over the next year or 10, however long I've got in me making videos. Here's my little videoing corner that I usually like to use, with a nice plain background. It's well away from the house, so don't get interrupted by the telephone and things like that. And then around from there we have, well, I guess is the final bench, as it were, and we have the big old twin trunk fusion larch project just there, and a hawthorn, another little oak awaiting repotting, the large grey barked elm, and the fluted hornbeam, as I call it, and yeah, that's just there, and another Christmas tree and a birch, all of which are waiting to have some work done on them. We'll move in a little closer and look at a couple individual ones. Okay, so this is a little birch tree, and I'm going to be working on that in the next couple of weeks. And at the moment that's just been allowed to grow last year, and it went up and up and up and up and up and up and up. So yeah, that needs to be brought back into check. We have the fluted hornbeam, which I've got the tree popped up on a block because I want to change the angle of the trunk to this angle, and that's going to be going into one of the new pots that I had for Christmas. So again, it needs some work, well, a lot of work at the top, but I've been building the trunk. That was put in a sort of medieval torture chamber contraption for a number of years, because it did have a perfectly dead straight trunk and I really didn't like it. So yeah, that's to go into a new pot soon. This is a little 3-trunk elm, common elm, English elm, that I picked up, shall we say, from the hedgerow, and that needs to be worked on this year, and this piece needs to be moved into place. But I have an image of a triple trunk tree and crown. Probably won't, it'll go in, be repotted, but it's not going to go into a new pot. Again, I don't have one suitable, so my order will go in for Father Christmas next year. The grey bark elm, it's going to need repotting, but probably just go back into this pot. But again, videos will be made as much as I can. And yeah, so that's almost it. I've got a couple of benches full of sort of starter trees that I've grown from cutting, so we'll have a quick look at those. Okay, so this is in a right old state, and sat here all winter with the leaves from the trees falling on top of them, but they kind of help. They give it a little blanket, and there's all sorts in here. It's all mostly deciduous. There's some Lonicera, shrubby honeysuckles there, but for the most part it's deciduous. Mostly trees I've grown either from seed or from cuttings. There's some apples that were suckers that I dug up. For example, just there. Next to them is some Zelkovas that I grew from seed. So there are willows and there are oaks and there are ash. I don't think there's any beech in here. I think I used all of the beech seedlings I had up in the forest. So, yeah. If you're getting bored, don't worry. We're nearly done. So here we have the sort of last bench that I own of trees. This is all starter trees, all again things grown mostly from seed or from cuttings. There are some Japanese maples, one or two, lots of field maple, and some ash and birch, and some sickly looking box, and some hawthorn and some beech. Again, will I ever put them all as trees? Will they ever become bonsai? I've no idea, but I'm kind of addicted to growing trees. I've got a whole load of seeds to be planting shortly, and as you saw, I had those for Christmas. I've already sown some field maples that I've collected, and no doubt I will be taking cuttings throughout the year as well. It's a sickness, but I guess there are much worse addictions out there. So that's about it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. Please take care of yourselves. Stay safe.